Our economy is doing so well, and it's in good part because of the work we in the Senate and the president did over the last summer.
Here's the thing. This is a president who has spent the last 2 years turning the economy around. You hear us talk about Bidenomics. You just mentioned how we're doing this West Coast swing, talking directly to the American people about how wages are actually going up, about how inflation is going down over a long, extended period of time, more than 12 months. That is important.
I have something. Here's 30 points from where he was during an election day in 2020 to 2020 to where they are now. Yes.
Which is remarkable. I mean, that really shows all the gains that they need to make.
The problem is incomes have gone up, but inflation has gone up more. Year-to-year inflation has come down off the high base, 9%. But actually, since he was inaugurated, inflation is up 16%, the level of the CPI. Energy is up over 30%. Groceries at home up 20%. Those are what's killing. Real wages are coming down. That's what's really hurting the economy.
Life sure is hard for a guy like Joe Biden. He's doing his best. He's trying his hardest. And he's sitting there at the White House. And no matter how screwed up he is, how terrible his lies are, or how awful his decisions are, people still look at him and say, wow, that was really great. Was it hard being so successful and sexy at the same time? And that's not Jill Biden or his crackhead son saying that. That's the White House press corps. These are the kind of questions his administration gets about his performance. When they're talking about the Inflation Reduction Act, just listen to this and ask yourself, who the hell are these people?
Both enumerated what this is doing for people's pocketbooks and the broader economy, but there is this broad disconnect in what the polls have shown with how Americans feel the president's handling the economy. I understand the pandemic and all the drag of inflation. At what point does this resonate?
Wow. Poor Joe Biden having to deal with the pandemic, except not at all. Any positive economic stuff for him is because the pandemic ended. When he talks about how he's brought down the debt, which is a lie, he actually means the deficit, but he's too stupid to figure that out. It's only because the pandemic spending stopped. Never should have done what they did. Donald Trump was responsible for that. But Joe Biden didn't actually do anything there. The pandemic spending stopped. So he claimed credit for that. And I like how this reporter's like, when is it going to resonate? I mean, we realize, the pandemic, which means nothing, and inflation is bad, but when are you going to get credit for all the great stuff you did? As if the inflation stuff wasn't his fault. I don't get it.
With Americans, and do you expect they'll ever give credit to the president while he's in office for these accomplishments?
Well, just speaking to the healthcare provisions of the Inflation Reduction Act, some have been recently implemented. The $35 cap on insulin, the making vaccines for seniors, for shingles and tetanus and other items free. Those have just recently come on board.
Well, you see, the economy is doing so great because we gave away a bunch of free stuff. The question was, why aren't people giving you credit for being so awesome? And her response is, we did all this free stuff that just happened. So we're not going to get credit for that free stuff we gave away yet. She should have said something along the lines of, we accomplished X, Y, and Z. And they talk about the Inflation Reduction Act, which we'll get into here in just a second. But man, these are not good reasons. Let's see what else she's got. It's a softball question. Why are the polls showing that people don't like what you're doing with the economy, yet you're so awesome and sexy? Why? Why is that possible? And by the way, Joe Biden, what a handsome man.
People will experience lower drug prices from the Medicare and drug negotiation and from other steps we've taken over time. So I have some experience of working on the Affordable Care Act, and it took people a little bit of time, but when people really focused on that, back in 2017, 2018, people recognized the true benefit and really rose up to defend the law. So we expect, my expectation is that as we implement these provisions, as people see in their pocketbooks that they are paying less for prescription drugs for the first time because of the Inflation Reduction Act, they'll make the connection.
You'll notice no answer was actually given here. Instead, it's all about how the government took on things and said, we'll handle this. Your insulin will be cheaper because we'll pay for it. Your prescription will be cheaper because we'll pay for it. That's what that means. They didn't lower the cost for anybody. In fact, they're increasing the cost for everybody else. But they don't want to talk about that. But again, the stupid question from the reporter is, why are you so great and nobody else thinks so except the people sitting in this room? We're the only ones who think you're so great, but you're so wonderful and awesome. By the way, your teeth are extra white tonight. They just look wonderful. Is that new eyeshadow? You're beautiful. That's the kind of stuff they ask these people. Which, of course, when the Republicans are office, it's, why are you eating babies right now during this interview? Why is this happening? They talk about the Inflation Reduction Act like it's lowering prices. And it's weird to see them doing this because just last week, Joe Biden was saying this. I wish I hadn't called the spending bill the Inflation Reduction Act because it did not act to reduce inflation. It actually made it worse because it was just a spending bill. But that was 3 days ago. And now they're asking questions like, you did such a great job bringing down costs, and how come no one else sees it? Because it never happened. Biden said 3 days ago, costs have gone up on everything. It hasn't brought down costs. Interest rates are still up. Everything is more expensive. Groceries, still expensive. Inflation, still going up. In fact, it raised higher than the month before for the first time in a pretty decent amount of time. But it still was never going down. It was going from 8 to 6. Okay, that's not really what we're talking about here. Got to get it back down to 2, where it was when he took over. He can't take credit for everything and then just fluff off everything that is negative. Gas prices up, groceries up, medical costs up, even though they're pretending otherwise. Even the things they claim they're doing, they're not actually doing. They have no real answer. And you'd think the American media might want to press on that. Instead, it's, how are you guys doing such a great job? It's so wonderful. Thank you so much for being so great and awesome. Nobody takes these people seriously because they don't ask real questions. They fluff for the administration. That's all it is. They're fluffing for the administration. And the reason it's not working is because Americans live in the real world and they see their costs going up every single day. That's why they're not getting credit for making the economy better. That's why polling is so bad for them, because the economy is not good.